Welcome back to the Shigeaki Podcast, where every week we unravel one misunderstood aspect of aging and turn it into something powerful. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman, and today we're diving into a silent but critical mistake many people over 60 make every single night. It's not about diet, not about blood sugar or blood pressure. It's about how you sleep the actual position your body stays in for 6 to 8 hours every night for decades. Now, I know what you're thinking, Mark. Sleep is sleep. As long as I'm getting enough hours, I'm good, right? Well, not exactly. I recently saw a patient, Donna, age 67, who came in with mild brain fog, neck pain, tightness in her jaw, and tingling down one arm. She was eating well, moving regularly, no signs of stroke, blood work pristine. But something was off. It wasn't until I asked, "How do you usually sleep?" that we found the real culprit. She said, "Always on my stomach. It's the only way I fall asleep." And there it was. Sleeping on your stomach after 60, when circulation is slower, spinal discs are less hydrated and oxygen needs increase, can quietly damage your brain, heart, and spine. So today we're tackling this head on, and with me is someone whose understanding of aging sleep and neurology spans over a century of clinical experience. A man who has not only practiced medicine for more than 80 years, but who at over 100 years old still wakes up with clarity, purpose, and breath. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, thank you for joining me again.
Thank you, Mark. I'm honored as always. I believe what we are discussing today is one of the most overlooked habits in medicine. People care so much about how they move, eat, or exercise, but they ignore what they do in stillness, and that includes sleep posture. Over the past decades, I've seen patients who come in with fatigue, dizziness, even chest tightness. We check everything, nothing abnormal. And yet they wake each morning with symptoms that accumulate year after year. And many times the root cause isn't disease. It's the way their body spends the night.
That's so well said. And what struck me is how normalized it's become to sleep any way that feels comfortable without questioning what that comfort might be costing us. Now, in functional medicine, we talk a lot about posture. We analyze how people sit, stand, move, but sleep posture. That's not part of the standard evaluation. Yet, from a neurological perspective, sleep is a time of active detoxification and repair, especially in the brain. The glymphatic system, which clears metabolic waste from the brain, is most active at night. But that clearance depends on stable circulation, and that's where sleep position becomes critical.
Absolutely. When the head is twisted or the spine is misaligned during sleep, we reduce that flow, especially through the vertebral arteries which supply the brainstem. People think I just have a stiff neck, but what they really have is chronic vascular compression. Over time, this leads to mental fatigue, slower reflexes, even subtle mood changes. And for the heart lying face down or curled inward, compresses the chest cavity, limits lung expansion, and can elevate the heart rate subtly through the night. It's not dramatic, but it's cumulative.
I've seen it clinically. I had a man in his 70s who developed morning palpitations. His cardiologist found nothing conclusive. But once he stopped sleeping on his left side, with his arm tucked beneath his chest and shifted to a neutral supported back sleeping position, the palpitations disappeared in 2 weeks. This is the kind of thing we don't talk about enough. Not just, are you getting sleep, but is your sleep helping you heal or hurting you silently?
Yes. And I must tell you, Mark, in Japan we are taught early that sleep is a form of preparation. Not just rest, not escape, but recovery. And that recovery requires not just hours, but alignment, structure, breath. If we sleep like a crumpled piece of paper, we wake with folds and creases that don't disappear as easily with age.
That's a beautiful metaphor, and I think this is why your longevity carries such weight. You've not only studied aging, you've lived it. And you've seen what makes people not just survive, but thrive well into their 80s, 90s, and beyond 100. So, in today's episode, we're going to explore why sleep position is more than just comfort. It's a circulatory, neurological, and structural event, which postures are silently harming older adults. What happens to the heart, brain, and spine when we sleep the wrong way? and how to adopt what you've called the Shigeaki Sleep Protocol, a method that gently protects the most vital systems during the night. And I want to be clear, this isn't about perfection. It's about awareness, and starting with one small shift that could change how your body functions not in years, but in mornings.
Beautifully said. Sleep is 1/3 of your life. So why not make it the most healing third?
Let's get into the mechanics. At first glance, sleep position seems like a matter of preference. You lie on your side, your back, your stomach, whatever feels natural. But here's what many don't realize after age 60. Even small physical imbalances compound rapidly. And sleep posture, because it's held for hours, is one of the most powerful and most underestimated forces shaping your health. Let's begin with the brain.
Yes, this is where I always begin as a neurologist. The brain is not off during sleep. In fact, it becomes more active in terms of detoxification and neural repair. The glymphatic system, which drains waste, like beta amyloid and tau proteins, relies on unrestricted blood and cerebrospinal fluid flow. But when someone sleeps with their head turned harshly to one side or lies face down, the arteries in the neck, particularly the vertebral arteries, can become kinked. That reduces perfusion to the brainstem, which is already vulnerable in older adults.
Right. And the brainstem isn't just another part of the brain. It controls breathing rhythm, heart rate, sleep cycles. It's our primal life center. If oxygen supply is even mildly reduced for several hours, night after night, we're talking about cumulative cognitive fatigue fog, and in some cases even mini ischemic events. And people never connect it to posture. They say, my memory's slipping, or I wake up groggy and think it's just aging. But sometimes it's just alignment.
Exactly. I once treated a retired violinist, very sharp mentally in her 70s, but she had begun forgetting simple things. No stroke, no dementia markers, just years of sleeping with her head twisted sharply to the left body curled in like a comma. When we shifted her to a neutral supine position with neck support and a breathing ritual before bed, her clarity improved within weeks.
That's amazing, and it reflects a broader truth I see in functional medicine. Blood flow is the language of health. Let's move to the heart. Sleeping positions that compress the chest, especially face down or curled tightly, can restrict the diaphragm and interfere with full lung expansion. That causes subtle hypoxia, which makes the heart compensate with increased effort. In some patients, I've seen morning palpitations or elevated resting heart rates, and once we address posture, they normalize.
I fully agree. After 60, the heart's elasticity changes. It becomes more sensitive to postural strain. When the thoracic cavity is compressed, the autonomic nervous system, especially the parasympathetic tone, is disrupted. That leads to more sympathetic dominance overnight. Rest becomes stress. In Japan, we have a word, karada no ishi, the body's resistance. When elders don't rest properly, they wake up feeling like they've been fighting, not sleeping.
That speaks to something I see. Often people who wake up exhausted even though they slept 8 hours. And when I ask them, do you wake up feeling restored? The answer is usually no. But no one asks, how were you lying during those hours? Now let's talk about the spine, because posture affects everything from nerve conduction to joint hydration.
Ah yes, the spine is the forgotten organ of vitality. At night, spinal discs rehydrate. That only happens when gravity is neutralized and the spinal column is relaxed. But in positions where the back is twisted, like curled on one side with a knee pulled up or stomach sleeping with one leg bent, we create torsion on the vertebrae. This leads to asymmetrical disc pressure, muscle guarding in the lumbar and cervical regions, morning stiffness that's mistaken for arthritis.
I've seen this play out as chronic sciatica, recurring neck pain, even numbness in the arms, when in fact it's postural compression, not a structural disease. One patient, in fact, spent a year chasing down diagnoses, physical therapy injections, even MRI scans. All he needed was a small pillow under the knees and realignment of the neck. So, to summarize this part, sleep position affects brain circulation and detox. Poor posture increases cardiac load and reduces breath quality. And twisting or compressing the spine prevents deep muscular and disc recovery. And here's the point. I want to emphasize these effects are subtle, silent, and cumulative, but they are completely preventable.
Yes, and for many of our listeners, this is not about dramatic change. It is about gentle re-education of the body starting with one night. Because when you treat sleep as sacred, the body begins to remember how to heal.
So, now we know that sleep position matters, but let's name the culprits. Because while people might suspect sugar inflammation or cholesterol for their fatigue or stiffness, they rarely think, maybe it's how I curl up at night. Dr. Hinohara, what is the most harmful sleep position you've seen in older patients?
Without hesitation, lying face down, stomach sleeping. In Japanese, we call this unazukine, the posture of bowing while asleep. It feels secure, grounded. Some even say it comforts their stomach. But biologically, it's a silent trap. Sleeping face down flattens the chest, compresses the lungs, and forces the head to turn sharply to one side. This leads to restricted breathing, twisting of the cervical spine, compression of the vertebral arteries feeding the brainstem, chronic neck pain, jaw clenching, and even numbness in the fingers.
That's consistent with what I've seen. People say I sleep best on my stomach, but wake up groggy, tight, and slightly anxious, blaming stress or aging. They don't realize their autonomic nervous system was under strain the entire night. I once had a patient describe it perfectly. She said, "It feels like I ran a marathon in my sleep."
Yes, and they may not snore or stop breathing, but their brain is working harder to survive the posture. This adds cortisol load, subtle anxiety, and next-day fatigue. And over years, it becomes burnout.
Let's talk about another one, the tight fetal curl. People over 60 often say they sleep in this position because of comfort or warmth. But that deep curling knees to chest chin tucked creates a forward spinal flexion, compresses the diaphragm, and closes off the chest.
That's right. It's a natural instinct, especially in colder months or after emotional stress. But in the elderly, this position can strain the hips and shoulders, compress the lower lungs, reduce vagal tone, which impairs parasympathetic recovery, and most of all, shorten the spine over time. I often say, if you sleep like you're hiding from the world, your body will forget how to stand upright in it.
That's powerful. And I've seen this too older patients whose posture has collapsed inward. But it didn't start with aging. It started with how they slept. Now, what about always sleeping on one side? A lot of people say, I only sleep on my left, or I can't fall asleep unless I'm on my right. Is that a concern?
It can be, yes, especially when one side is favored for years. Side sleeping in general is not bad if it's balanced and properly supported. But fixed side sleeping leads to facial asymmetry, shoulder, impingement, tingling, or nerve compression in one arm, and in some cases, hip misalignment. I've even seen patients with chronic jaw issues from pressing one side of the face into the pillow too hard for too long.
So here's what we're looking at. Stomach sleeping compresses vital arteries and restricts breath. Fetal curling creates spinal strain and shortens lung capacity. Fixed side sleeping causes asymmetry, joint strain, and nerve entrapment. And yet, and this is key, these positions feel emotionally comforting to people. So, how do we help them shift?
We start with compassion. The stomach sleeper may have learned that habit in childhood to feel safe. The curled-up elder may be responding to cold or loneliness. These positions often reflect emotional patterns, not just physical habits. So we must introduce new postures with gentleness, not fear.
And I tell my patients this. You didn't build this sleep pattern in one night, so don't expect to undo it in one night. Begin with 15 minutes of back sleeping use support pillows, and give the body time to relearn. Because when sleep position improves, everything else begins to follow: energy, clarity, even mood.
Yes, and I believe that how you sleep reflects how you trust life. If you can sleep open-aligned and supported, your body learns that it is safe to heal. And when healing becomes the norm in sleep, aging becomes lighter.
All right, we've named the harmful postures, but now comes the solution: the healing posture. Dr. Hinohara, you've developed what's become known as the Shigeaki Sleep Protocol, built over decades of caring for older adults. It's simple, accessible, and shockingly effective. Let's walk through it together for those listening who are ready to change their sleep one night at a time.
Yes, thank you, Mark. This protocol is not a rule book. It's a gentle guide, a way of teaching the body to feel safe enough to repair itself during the night. We use 5 principles. Let's begin. 1. Neutral back sleeping, not stiff, but aligned. We encourage lying on the back, but not flat like a soldier. Instead, imagine your spine as a long ribbon. It needs to rest with even support, not pressure. Head, shoulders, hips, and heels should all touch the surface gently. If any part floats or presses too hard, use micro adjustments: a small pillow under the knees, a thin cushion under the shoulder blade. This encourages full lung expansion, stable blood flow to the brain, relaxation of deep back muscles.
Yes, and I'd add for many people with lower back tightness, placing a soft pillow under the knees is a game changer. It shifts the pelvis slightly, allowing the lumbar spine to relax and reducing disc pressure overnight.
2. Low contoured pillow support. Not elevation. The head should not be pushed forward. A thick pillow lifts the neck unnaturally, which restricts the throat and tightens the base of the skull. Choose a low, soft pillow, or even a roll towel that supports the natural curve of the neck. I often tell patients, let your head rest like a leaf on still water, not like a brick on a shelf.
That's poetic and precise. In my clinic, I've seen memory issues improve simply from correcting neck posture during sleep, especially in people with degenerative cervical changes or sleep apnea. 3. Pre-sleep reset, breath light and temperature. Let's talk nervous system. Most people go to bed wired. Even if they're tired, their nervous system is buzzing from screens, news, or racing thoughts. What do you recommend before even lying down?
A full hour before sleep, begin what I call the return to softness. Dim the lights, turn off stimulating sounds, warm the feet, a soak or socks, drink warm water or herbal tea, and practice 5 slow breaths, exhaling longer than you inhale. This signals the vagus nerve, which tells the entire body you're safe to let go.
That's a principle in functional medicine too. Parasympathetic activation is non-negotiable for quality sleep. And we often forget posture begins with the nervous system, not the muscles.
4. Transition to new positions gradually. If you've slept on your stomach for 40 years, don't expect to love your back tomorrow. Begin with 10 minutes of back sleeping. Use a weighted blanket or warm compress on the abdomen to simulate the security of stomach pressure. Place a pillow at your sides to prevent rolling. Think of this as retraining the subconscious, not forcing change.
Brilliant. And I've seen success when patients set intentions before sleep, saying aloud, "Tonight I rest aligned. Tonight I let go." The body listens. 5. Wake gently. Preserve what the night repaired. Last point but essential. How you wake up matters. What's your morning recommendation?
Before getting up, remain lying down for 2 to 3 minutes. Open the eyes slowly. Wiggle fingers and toes. Stretch the arms wide. Then sit up with 1 breath in and 1 slow exhale as the feet touch the floor. This allows the brain's blood pressure to adjust before you stand. No rush, no collapse.
Exactly. Many falls, dizziness, and morning confusion are simply too much speed too soon after rising. Let your body catch up with your intention. So, let's pause here and reflect. We began today's episode with a simple question: Does the way you sleep matter after 60? And we've discovered something powerful. Yes, it matters more than ever. Because while the world sees sleep as passive, medicine tells us otherwise. During sleep, your brain detoxifies, your heart finds rhythm, your spine realigns, and your organs communicate. And if your posture is off, if blood is restricted, if the spine is twisted, if the lungs are compressed, you don't recover. You endure, night after night, until symptoms arrive, and you call it aging. But it's not always aging. Sometimes it's just a position you never questioned.
That is so true. I often remind my patients you do not grow old in the day you grow old, in how you spend your nights. The body remembers how you lie down. If you treat it with alignment, it responds with clarity. If you compress it out of habit, it slowly forgets how to rise. I have seen 90-year-olds change their posture and reclaim mornings with strength. And I have seen 60-year-olds ignore posture and age before their time.
Exactly. And what's so hopeful about this is you don't need money, you don't need pills, you don't even need a new mattress. You need attention, a simple pillow adjustment, a shift to back sleeping, a moment of breath before rising, and the results: better energy, fewer dizzy mornings, less stiffness, and above all, the feeling that your body is not breaking down. It's learning again.
I often say, the most powerful therapy for aging is not expensive. It is consistent, respectful rest. So tonight, before you lie down, pause. Ask, am I giving my heart space to beat? Am I giving my spine space to stretch? Am I giving my brain space to clear? Because when you do, the body thanks you not with words, but with function.
That's the wisdom I wish every person over 60 could hear. So, if this conversation helped you reconsider how you sleep even a little, please subscribe to the Shigeaki Podcast. Share this episode with a loved one over 60, especially someone waking up stiff, tired, or foggy, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover simple life-changing shifts like this one.